House may result to an economic partitioning of Africa.
There is nothing wrong because we are living in an age that you must be smart. The type of market that is operating is hit and run. So Africa has better opportunity now because they are the ones, everybody is targeting Africa. And when they are targeting Africa, they are targeting sub-Saharan Africa. And in sub-Saharan Africa, they are targeting Nigeria. Why? Because our consumption pattern and the resources available, and at the same time our future is assured. So nobody is doubting this. Most of the economists, including Jim O'Neill, that prophesies that Africa is going to take over in the next 10 years, 10 to 20 years, Africa will take over whatever that is going to happen in the world in the field of trade. And that is why Africans today, from the report of the NTA, you now see how doctors, 12 doctors migrating to where? To only UK, meaning that we have the capacity. By the time we settle and we fix the deficit in our infrastructures, then people will begin to have medical tourism in Africa because we have the capacity. The only thing is just to have the right investors. And in making friends, you have to make sure that you are making good friends.
Okay, to take over, how should we prepare for other investment opportunities?
By looking at the windows. Any opportunity has a window. The window is technology. When you don't have technology, we are all operating digital economy. Russia has gone far in digital economy. China has gone far in digital economy. Nigeria is moving. But you have to now look at our laws. And that is why this finance bill that was changed, that was looked into with amendment, is going to help investors to come, is going to help the economy in the short run, and will help the economy in the long run. And we also have to check our deficiencies that we are coming out of recession, especially in Nigeria. It means that we have to devise means at which most of our resources that is going to change the status quo of our investment is being clearly identified and targeted.
That will be all for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Malan Yushew Aliyu.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. And Hingino in our Lagos Network Center is next on Nationwide. Hello, you're on.
Thank you, Hawa, for joining us in Lagos. In furtherance of its commitment to providing a level playing ground for all stakeholders in the delivery of credible elections in the country, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has reiterated its ambition to recognizing all categories of persons in achieving this through data capturing. This was at a one-day strategy meeting on capturing of disaggregated data of persons with disabilities across the country held in Lagos. Tunde Saiki has more.
The United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons Living with Disabilities has been the guiding standard in disability inclusion the world over. So far, 162 countries have signed the convention. The Article 29 of the treaty focuses on participation in political and public life. It calls on states to ensure that persons with disabilities can effectively and fully participate in political activities on equal basis with others and granted the opportunity to vote and be voted for.
The Kogi election, Bayelsa election, we provided for all polling units, whereas it was unnecessary to do that. But because we did not have the data to assist us in providing for areas where those things are needed.
Sustain statistics of persons with disabilities engagement in the electoral process in Nigeria.
Some participants at the meeting noted that such strategy will not only assist INEC and persons with disabilities in the electoral process, but also help in reducing waste and human and material resources.
You could never ask for much more than that in the area of inclusivity.
Cannot have an inclusive, free and fair elections without knowing the numbers of those to either vote or to be elected.
The one-day strategy meeting had in attendance officials of INEC and other stakeholders from across the country. In Lagos, Tunde Saiki, NTA News.
Now, Lagosians who use water transportation can now breathe a sigh of relief following efforts by the state government to ensure safety of lives with the introduction of new jetties and response center. This, officials say, will not only help to ease traffic on Lagos roads, but also go a long way to encourage those who use this means of transportation to have safe sail. Lynn Leneke has more.
Gridlock on Lagos roads is a major challenge, and so many Lagosians have turned to water transportation to enable them access their businesses and workplace on time. To ensure those who use this means of transportation are safe, the Lagos State government has introduced various measures to ease transportation in the metropolis. These 4 new operational jetties are part of such initiative. The jetties comprise 10 rescued boats to be manned by response officials and channeled in various locations around the waterways.
We're trying to create that enabling environment to ensure that these investments thrive and these investments are sustainable. So having this safety system will further give passengers that confidence that let me go on the waterways. In case of any emergency, I know that within a few minutes they will be rescued that will get to me.
The location include Lekki, Ikorodu, Ijagun-Egba, and Ilaje Bariga. The Director General, Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, described the positive step by the Lagos State government as a new dawn for Lagosians, assuring those who use this means of transportation a safe trip.
To ensure that we respond to any form of emergency or disaster on our waterways effectively and efficiently.
The Lagos State Emergency Management Agency has over the years contributed positively to rescue operations of lives and property during disasters and has promised not to relent in their efforts as safety of lives and property is their priority. In Lagos, Lynn Lenake, NTA News.
That's it from here. It's now back to Hawa in Abuja for more on Nationwide.
And moving on, the fight against drug abuse in Nigeria has consistently raised attention, especially among the youth who often fall victim. To further strengthen sensitization and public awareness on the abuse of drugs, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has unveiled its anti-drug ambassador for an effective response. Ruth Agwele completes the report.
Daily it kills them, but they persist. An addiction only the victims can explain, but a future that society will need to fix. In its efforts to redefine drug control and nab culprits, the agency tasked with the responsibility are not relenting in ending the menace of drug abuse in the country. One of its strategies is getting the youths involved, and Ugochi Onoha, who is 26 years old and a student of Lagos State University, today is unveiled as the anti-drug ambassador of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency.
Thank you. Your Excellency, you're welcome to the club. Thank
you, sir. Geared with these tools, Ugochi seemed ready for her mission.
I plan to use my music to reach out to a lot of people out there because I feel like music can relate to a lot of people even more than words, especially young people out there that are so sink in drug and they need young people like me to give them advice, to talk to them.
Then she has the courage to be a very good representative of the NDLEA in their campaign to sanitize the society about drug use.
I like to see a family that is not being affected. I like to see a street where this does not go on, such that as she talks and passes her message in Nigeria, more people will be aware of where we're headed.
As the campaign continues, the NDLEA believes that saying no to drug abuse is a collective responsibility. In Abuja, Ruth Aguela, NTA News.
And Ibadan is next on Nationwide, where Lanre will bring us up to speed with news from that zone. Good afternoon to you, Lanre.
Ibrahim Magu said the agency will ensure that looted funds
The acting chairman, Economic Commission, EFC, Ibrahim Magu, has reaffirmed the agency's commitment to bring looters to book through effective collaborations within and outside the country. The anti-graft chairman made this while on a walking visit to the zonal office of the commission in Ibadan. Kemioshi has.
The EFCC chairman, who was taking round the premises of the agency, noted that ensuring the state of environment capacity building is part of efforts to ensure the agency delivers on its mandate, making particular reference to some high-profile cases of financial appropriation by public office holders. Ibrahim Magu said the agency will ensure that looted funds are recovered to discourage criminal activities such as fraud and misuse of public, among others. He commended the recent effort by the agency in checkmating the activity of Senate fraudsters, popularly known as Yahoo Boys, adding that there can be no hiding place for them.
What we do is that we have to put our head together to do something to update them. There are small boys who are very intelligent. They can be useful. We can find a way to bring them back.
Unfortunately, we cannot continue with our Ibadan Network Center due to unsteady pictures from that zone. The absence of optimal drainage system and the indiscriminate attitude of people in refuse disposal continue to put communities at risk of flooding. Guests on NTA program Good Morning Nigeria said at this position while discussing the 2020 seasonal rainfall prediction by NIMET. Murjanatu Adam Said has that.
For some time now, NIMET rainfall predictions have been receiving greater attention due to past experiences of flooding in almost all parts of the country. Nigeria is said to play a big role in Africa in food sufficiency and even providing food to its neighbors. But the devastating flood make it mandatory for all stakeholders to sit up.
So to this extent, we will call on all states and all local governments and everybody, every stakeholder, every Nigerian to wake up. This is a clarion call for there to be action to mitigate whatever effects will come after flooding or late rains or early rains or too much rains or things like that.
With SRP, will now commence our coordination role as far as disaster management is concerned. Technical meeting will be held with all stakeholders, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, because whenever there is flood, there is health consequences.
The NIMET prediction has also affected the fire incident, where he is talking about dry spells.
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely there is going to be fire, and the fire during the spell can affect the little that is even undergoing drought in the farmland. So we have to use all the agencies together to ensure that we study the report and then bring all the stakeholders together.
The guests say the commitment of the federal government through proper information management and effective enforcement of the 2020 flood prediction is key in addressing all the challenges.
So what we are now hoping for is to start having state governors that when they come with pragmatic programs of actions that will ensure effective utilization of this very vital information.
The release of water from Cameroon is said to be responsible for last year's flood in Nigeria. With NIMET and Hydrological Services prediction, Nigeria only needs better preparation to tackle the challenges this year in case it occurred. In Abuja, Murajanatu Adam Said, NTA News.
The Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Act signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari last year is yet to be implemented. Worried by the non-implementation of the act, members of the Association of Lawyers with Disability in Nigeria visited the Director General of the NTA, Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, to solicit NTA's support and partnership in giving effect to the provisions of the act by creating awareness. Vera Chinguba has more.
The President of Lawyers Living with Disabilities, Mr. Daniel Owe, is appealing to the federal government to establish a national commission for people living with disability to fast-track the implementation of the Act. Mr. Owen said the visit is in commemoration of the 4th anniversary of the enactment of the Act and to solicit the support of the NTA in creating awareness on the need for corporate entities and individuals to give effect to the provisions of the Act to make life more meaningful to beneficiaries. He thanked the NTA for its partnership, noting that the implementation of the Act would stem discrimination and give them a sense of belonging.
We also need the Nigerian populace to know that persons with disability should not be discriminated. And employers in the public sector should also, in line with the provision of the Act, employ persons with disabilities whom before now have actually suffered discrimination at the workplace. So we want the NTA to indeed create awareness on this act.
The acting director of news, Halima Musa, who received the lawyers on behalf of the Director General of the NTA, Yakubu Ibu Mohammed, said apart from promoting the welfare of all Nigerians, NTA has already taken steps to comply with the Act in terms of employment and provision of facilities to enhance performance of duties. She said the NTA will continue to join hands with other stakeholders to promote the enforcement of the rights and other obligations under the Act. Under the Act, corporate offenders risk a fine of 1 million naira, while individuals are liable to pay 100,000 naira. There is also a penalty of 6 years jail term for the offense as an option. In Abuja, Viera Chumuba, NTA News.
Nura is in Sokoto with more stories on Nationwide. Hello, Nura.
And welcome to Sokoto. Ahead of the rural elections scheduled for 25th January 2020 in Sokoto State, the Independent National Electoral Commission Sokoto office is to work closely with anti-graft agencies to check vote buying and other forms of money politics. This was made known at the Stakeholders Forum for the Supplementary and Rural Election in Sokoto State. Show Muhammad Datti completes the story.
It drew participants from the security, anti-graft agencies, media, CSOs, and political parties in the state. It was a forum where stakeholders were updated on the forthcoming rural and supplementary elections in the state. Available data from the INEC indicates that 4 elections are to be conducted come 25th January 2020. 2 federal constituency elections in Sokoto South, Sokoto North, and East Sawambuni federal constituencies. Others are state assembly elections in Sokoto North 2 and Binju local government areas.
We are urging you to please, in the name of Almighty Allah, to play the game by the rule.
Involvement of the 2 anti-graft agencies, AFCC and ICPC, was to checkmate vote buying and other forms of money politics, while other security agencies are expected to perform their constitutional responsibilities.
With the security agencies, we are going to provide security for everybody.
We hope that all the things said will be actioned, they will be done.
But considering what had been discussed during the meeting, we are 100% sure that the rural election will be a very successful one.
Other stakeholders at the meeting made observations and suggestions on how to conduct a hitch-free supplementary rural election in the state. In Sokoto, Show Muhammad Datti, NTA News.
Chairman Senate Committee on Defense Senator Aliu Magateka Dawamako has urged supporters of All Progressives Congress in Sokoto State not to be demoralized by the recent verdict of the Supreme Court, but be united and face every challenge squarely. He was speaking while addressing the crowd that welcomed him and his entourage in Sokoto. Muhammad Nasir reports.
Hundreds of APC supporters thronged the Sultan Abubakar Rasad International Airport to welcome home their political hero and his high-powered entourage. The senator was returning from Abuja after the Supreme Court judgment, where APC gubernatorial candidate in Sokoto State, Ahmad Aliyu, challenged the re-election of the incumbent governor. The APC supporters come out en masse to renew their love and solidarity to Senator Aliyu Magateka Dawamako, the APC gubernatorial candidate Ahmed Aliyu, and APC as a party. Addressing the crowd, Senator Aliyu Dawamako appreciated the immense show of love by people of Sokoto State, enjoining them to accept the Supreme Court verdict and tighten their belt to make the party more formidable. He called on people of Sokoto State to massively vote for the APC candidate in the supplementary election slated for Saturday. Minister of Police Affairs Muhammad Megari Dengadi was also full of praises to APC supporters for their continuous support to the party's leadership in the state and being in higher spirit despite the Supreme Court verdict. The APC gubernatorial candidate in the state, Ahmad Aliyu, thanked the people of Sokoto State for their fervent prayers to him. In Sokoto, Muhammad Nasir, NTA News.
And thus our contribution from Sokoto Nationwide continues in Abuja with Hawa.
Thank you, Nura. Service chiefs and heads of security agencies have converged on Abuja to develop a unified template that will enhance synergy amongst the various state actors in the quest to secure the nation. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa reports that the Ministry of Defense provided the platform through a 2-day interagency workshop.
Insurgency in northeast Nigeria, banditry in the northwest, pipeline vandalism and piracy in the Niger Delta region are among emerging crime that has killed and displaced thousands of people with property worth millions destroyed. To stem these social vices capable of truncating the nation's socio-economic development, the military and other security agencies have deployed different strategies and platforms to prosecute these threats.
I'm aware that one of the objectives of this workshop is to identify synergy gaps among defense and security agencies. Undoubtedly, such gaps exist and have manifested in various forms. However, we must be reminded that all of us here are responsible to the government.
The task before this workshop is to enhance synergy among security agencies, prompt sharing of intelligence, and to define their individual roles to avoid duplication and ensure success in the ongoing drive to secure Nigeria and Nigerians.
We have strong reason to advocate for interagency cooperation among our security agencies. The dynamics and nature of contemporary security challenges have become complex and varied, such that no single security agency can deal with the variety of threats by itself alone.
The event is focusing on interagency synergy, an imperative for defense and security management. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
And still on security, in line with the saying that security is everyone's business, the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies is seeking collaboration with the Nigerian Army in the areas of research development to win the fight against insurgency and other security threats in the country. Kenneth Nanim reports that the Director General of the Institute was received at the Defense Headquarters in Abuja by Chief of Civil Military Relations on behalf of the Chief of the Army Staff.
The National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NIDS, steps away from its primary mandate of capacity building for legislators and their aides to seek partnership that affects the security of all with the Nigerian Army through research and other technical assistance.
Winning a war does not rely on the military hardware alone. You have to put so many variables into considerations. So we believe our institutes have the wherewithal in terms of capacities, in terms of the manpower, in terms of the resources, even in terms of the archives. Our institute is out to liaise with your research institute, to the research department.
Appreciating the visit, Chief of Civil Military Affairs of the Nigerian Army, Major General Usman Shehu Mohammed, urged NIDS to step up action in educating lawmakers more on statecraft and information management on security concerns.
We have a human rights desk where we entertain complaints, and we have created a channel whereby we interact with people. We have our Armed Forces Radio. Every Wednesday we have a civil military relations hour, whereby people phone in and they relate with us, and if there are complaints, they let us know and we investigate and get back to them.
Both parties underscore the need for the country to strengthen its institutions for national development. In Abuja, Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
And our Maiduguri Network Center is where we go now. Good afternoon, Abubakar. It's your turn.
Good afternoon to you, Hawa, and thanks for joining us in Maiduguri. The National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons has provided relief support to hundreds of new arrivals to 2 IDPs camps in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. The distribution of the food and non-food items formed part of engagement in the state by the Federal Commissioner Bashir Garba Mohammed. Here is Mohammed Ibrahim with more details of the story.
New arrivals to the NYC orientation and Dalari 1 IDP camps, numbering about 600, were the beneficiaries of the gesture by the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons. The Federal Commissioner, Senator Bashir Garba Mohammed, who was touched by the plight of persons affected by the displacement, interacted freely with them to identify their needs and gave assurances of subsequent interventions. Senator Bashir Garba had inaugurated an ICT business center at Waziri Ibrahim House, donated to the Commission, which had trained 45 youths on computer literacy and will all be engaged in the venture. Focal person Borno State Social Investment Aisha Umar, who donated the center, and the executive chairperson Sema Yaba Kolo commended the Refugees and Migrants Commission for initiating the viable venture in addition to sustained support to the state. While at the Government House, Maiduguri, the Federal Commissioner disclosed efforts by the Commission in supporting IDPs establish self-sustaining businesses and plans with partners to establish a resettlement center in Borno.
We are happy to also announce that some of the displaced persons we trained have now established businesses. We are extremely proud of their progress as newly established entrepreneurs, and we intend to commission some of the many business centers on this visit and also explore other sustainable solutions for all displaced persons within the state.
Governor Babagana Umar Zulum had pledged commitment to work with the Commission as part of efforts to resettle communities displaced by the decade-long insurgency. In Maiduguri, Muhammad Ibrahim, NTA News.
Borno State Governor Professor Babagana Umar Zulum has paid a visit to headquarters of the multinational Joint Task Force in Jamaina, capital of Chad Republic. Mohammed Guni reports that Commander of the Multinational Joint Task Force, Major General Ibrahim Manu Yusuf, received the governor and his entourage.
Governor Babagana Umara and the MNJTF commander held a closed-door meeting over the fight against Boko Haram in parts of Borno State, details of which were held for security reasons. At an opening session, however, General Yusuf expressed on behalf of all member countries in the task force their encouragement by Governor Zulum's visit, which he said demonstrates his commitment to peace building in Nigeria and other affected countries. Professor Babagana Umara thanked the forces for their sacrifices and patriotism, assuring them of his support at all times.
We went there and appreciated the effort of the government of Chad towards supporting our internally displaced persons who are residing in the LCBC member states. Had a very good meeting with the MNJTF and also the LCBC headquarters in Jamaina.
While in Jamaina, the governor's entourage proceeded to the headquarters of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, where they were received by the Executive Secretary of the Commission, Ambassador Mamman Nuhu, and other officials from different countries. A high-level meeting was held, which focused on security around the shores of the Lake Chad, humanitarian needs and restoration of the means of livelihood, as well as issues of trans-border trade and direct road linkage between Nigeria and Chad. At the end of the meeting, leaders strengthened commitment to regional stabilization through sustained fight against Boko Haram and the stimulation of trans-border trade. In Maiduguri, Mahmoud.
And that's a contribution from Maiduguri. There will be more stories with Hawa in Abuja after this break.
My name is Giato Adeza Adams, the General Manager, Corporate and Strategic Communications, Nigerian Port Authority. As regards the land borders closure, available statistical data from APMT, which is one of our terminal operators that is involved in container handling terminal, has recorded an increase of 200 TEUs of cargoes into their terminal as a result of cargo diversion from the vessels originally meant for neighboring countries. That shows you that the terminal operators is going to have an increase in revenue, which is accrued to the terminal, and at the same time, Nigerian Port Authority will equally benefit from the revenue increase. So that is the benefit we have derived from the border closure.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA. Get the latest news and updates from across Nigeria on NTA Nationwide. NTA Nationwide, weekdays by 4 p.m. Get it first, get it fresh.
Thanks for rejoining us. Sports now. The African nations qualifying draw for Qatar 2022 has continued to elicit reactions from soccer-loving Nigerians. Ayodeji Makinde is standing by live at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, to speak to this. Good afternoon to you, Ayo.
Good afternoon, Howard. Good to see you again.
Please, could you explain the difference in structure between the current qualifying draws and previous ones? Ayo, what's new about this new structure?
All right, yeah. All right, yeah, the new structure that we're seeing, it's most likely going to allow many of these other African countries who on a normal day would not have the chance of facing the big teams on the continent. It's to allow the so-called underdogs to have a feel, try their luck. Possibly it could be their day. It's completely different from what we've seen in years past when teams are drawn in a knockout phase over 2 legs and then they proceed over different rounds to qualify for the World Cup. But this time around, we're seeing 40 teams drawn in 10 different groups, where the group winners, 10 of them will now go into a 2-legged knockout to decide the 5 representatives that will be going to Qatar 2022.
Just looking at Nigeria's group, we seem to have the Central African Republic, Liberia, and Cape Verde in this group. Should we have any cause for concern? Is Nigeria safe?
Well, to be really modest, I think we should be worried a little bit considering what Nigeria went through in the year 2005 when we were shocked by Angola and Nigeria could not qualify. The group looked relatively easy in 2005 also with we had Rwanda, Algeria, Zimbabwe in the group, but Nigeria had to lose out to Angola. This time around, the teams are not in any way near Nigeria when it comes to the strengths and the type of football that we play. But there is also the need to be very, very careful when approaching these teams that even the technical advisor of the Super Eagles has come out to describe as very tricky.
Okay, talking about having been very, very careful, do we have any promising African debutant team currently on our radar?
Well, there are many of them out there. If you consider Chipolopolo of Zambia, for instance, they've tried to qualify for the World Cup a massive 14 times, and they've not been able to qualify. Now, in our group, we have Liberia that has attempted to qualify for 10 times. They will really fancy their chances. Cape Verde has attempted it 7 times. They also believe they can do it this time around, while the Central African Republic has tried 3 different times, but they still cannot qualify. Now, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Nigeria will be able to pick points off these teams before going into the final phase of qualification.
Thank you, Ayo. And moving on, fans tip Super Eagles to progress in World Cup qualifiers. Details and more with Kene Emagwadike.
Reactions have continued to trail Qatar 2022 FIFA World Cup draw for